The storm hit the valley fast, tearing through the pines with the sound of breaking bones. Elowen Hale had lived through enough winters to know when to bolt her door early, but tonight, the air felt different, thick with metal and something older than weather. She was pouring water from the kettle when the knock came. 3 heavy blows that rattled her little cabin like it was made of paper. Her breath caught. No one came this deep into the forest. Not hunters. Not traders. No one who valued their life. For years she'd survived on silence and shadows, the only heartbeat inside her home her own. A 4th knock. Louder this time. Desperate. Elowen's stomach turned. She set the kettle down and grabbed the old iron poker by the hearth. "Who's there?" she called. Her voice didn't sound like her own. It carried that thin edge between fear and command. For a moment, nothing. Then a voice, deep and rough. "I mean you no harm. I need shelter." She hesitated. That voice carried a kind of gravity. Steady, proud, and cracked around the edges like something that had been broken and kept walking anyway. "Please," he said. One word, and it wasn't begging. It was truth. Elowen unlatched the door. A man filled her doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a torn cloak that dripped rain onto her floorboards. The firelight hit his face, catching on sharp cheekbones, wet dark hair, and eyes the color of blood. He wasn't human. Every part of her knew it instantly. Under his shirt, she saw it. A faint glow through soaked fabric. A burn mark, shaped like a sigil, carved over his heart. It pulsed dull red, the metal edges biting into his skin. Vampire. She should have slammed the door. Instead, she whispered, "You're hurt." He swayed once, pride keeping him upright, and said, "They made sure of it." "Who?" "My coven," he said, voice flat, then winced. "And the wolves they sold me to." Lightning split the sky behind him, lighting the forest in white. And for one small, reckless second, Elowen pitied him. "Come inside," she said. The vampire hesitated, like stepping over her threshold was some ancient crime. Then he nodded once, and crossed in. The cabin seemed smaller with him there. His presence filled the air like the storm had followed him through the door. He moved toward the fire, shrugging off the cloak. It hit the floor with a wet slap, revealing the full damage. His shirt was shredded and blackened where the sigil burned. The smell of iron was strong, sharp and wrong, like scorched blood. He tried to stand tall, but his hands trembled. Elowen grabbed a rag and the kettle from earlier. "Sit," she ordered. He did, lowering himself into the chair, with the weight of a man who'd carried too much for too long. She dipped the cloth into the hot water and pressed it gently against his chest. He hissed, his hand snapping up fast enough to make her flinch. His fingers wrapped around her wrist, cold, strong, unyielding. "Don't touch the mark," he warned. "Then you'll bleed out." She shot back, glaring at him. Their eyes met. His glowing faintly red, hers sharp with stubbornness. After a moment, his grip loosened. "You're bold for someone living alone," he said. "You're bleeding on my floor," she answered. A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. "Fair." She cleaned the edges of the burn as carefully as she could. The wound didn't behave like normal flesh. It was trying to heal and fail at the same time, the skin stitching itself only to split again, with a flash of red light. "What is this?" she asked quietly. "Moon iron," he muttered. "Forged with my own blood. It's a binding. They branded me before I escaped." "Your coven did this?" He laughed, low and bitter. "Coven. Such a clean word for what they've become." Elowen didn't push. She'd seen enough pain to know when someone carried too much to explain. Instead, she worked in silence, the rain drumming steady against the roof. Finally, when the cloth turned dark and the bleeding slowed, he said, "You're not afraid of me." "I should be." "But you're not." "No," she said. "You don't feel like the thing I should fear." He studied her then, like he was trying to remember a face he'd seen long ago. "What's your name?" he asked. "Elowen," she said before she could stop herself. Names had power, her grandmother used to warn. But she hadn't spoken her own aloud in months, and the way he said it back to her, slow, careful, made her forget every rule she'd ever learned. "Elowen," he repeated, like he was testing the taste of it. "I'm Lucian." His voice softened, just a little, and the sound of it slipped under her ribs. She wanted to ask 100 questions. Why his coven betrayed him, why wolves hunted him, why he'd found her of all people. But the exhaustion in his face stopped her. She poured him tea instead. He frowned at the cup like he wasn't sure what to do with it. "It helps," she said, "even for creatures who think they don't need help." Lucian gave a small, reluctant smile and took a sip. His hands were steady again, but his eyes never left hers. "Why do you live out here alone?" Elowen looked toward the window. The rain blurred everything into grey shapes. "Because everywhere else hurts," she said quietly. "Because people like me don't fit anywhere." He didn't press, just nodded, like he understood more than he should. After a long silence, he asked, "Do you know what you are, Elowen Hale?" She stiffened. "A woman who minds her own business." He leaned forward, the firelight catching the faint shimmer of his eyes. "No. You're a seer, one of the last." Her breath caught. "That's not possible." "I can feel it," he said simply. "Your wards hide this place from blood magic. No vampire, no wolf, no hunter could have found you unless fate pulled them here." She shook her head. "Fate doesn't pull people, people make bad choices." Lucian smiled again, faintly. "Maybe both." He looked at her as if she was something rare, something dangerous. It should have scared her. Instead, it made her chest ache. Outside, thunder rolled closer. The windows trembled. Lucian turned his head sharply toward the sound. His nostrils flared. "They found me." "Who?" He didn't answer, just rose from the chair, moving with sudden strength. He went to the door, every motion sharp and silent. "Elowen," he said, "stay back." Her heart pounded. "Lucian." A shape passed the window, then another. Shadows, with eyes that gleamed yellow in the stormlight. "Wolves." Lucian's jaw tightened. "They've made their pact real," he said under his breath. "The Lycans hunt for the coven now." One of the wolves hit the door, hard enough to shake it. The wood splintered. Elowen grabbed her poker again. "You can't fight them all." "I don't need to," he said, eyes glowing bright crimson. "I just need to hold them long enough." The door burst inward. A wolf, half shifted into its monstrous form, lunged through the frame. Lucian moved faster than sight. One strike, one twist, and the creature fell. But there were more behind it, snarling, circling. Elowen raised her hand without thinking. The air around her shifted, cold, sharp. A line of light flared across the floor, sealing the doorway in white fire. The wolves recoiled, yelping as if burned. The smell of singed fur filled the room. Lucian turned toward her, eyes wide. "You did that?" "I don't." She stumbled back, staring at her glowing hands. "I don't know how." He looked at her like she'd just rewritten the rules of the world. "You just saved us." She shook her head. "No, I just made it worse. Now they'll—" He crossed the room in 2 strides, catching her shoulders before she could spiral further. "Look at me." His voice was calm but firm. She met his gaze, and everything else, the storm, the wolves, the fire, blurred away. "You didn't make it worse," he said quietly. "You reminded them what real power looks like." She wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly that it hurt. His hands were still on her arms, his skin cool against her own. The air between them felt charged, alive. When the silence stretched too long, she whispered, "They'll be back." "I know." "Then why aren't you afraid?" Lucian's mouth curved in something between a smirk and a sigh. "Because for the first time in years, I'm not alone." Elowen froze. He looked at her like he meant it, not as a line, not as a tactic, but as truth, the kind that cut both ways. The wolves finally retreated into the trees, howling as the storm dragged them off. The fire guttered low, throwing long shadows across the cabin walls. Elowen stepped away first, needing space to think. Lucian didn't stop her, he just sank back into the chair, watching her with that unreadable calm. After a while she said, "You should rest." "I can't. The mark won't let me." She turned. "Then tell me how to stop it." His eyes lifted to hers. "You can't. Try me." He studied her for a long moment, then unbuttoned the torn shirt, exposing the sigil fully. The metal lines glowed faintly, threading across his chest, like veins of molten silver. "It's tied to the Moon Pact," he said. "A curse, linking my blood to the Lycan leaders. As long as it burns, they'll always know where I am." Elowen moved closer without thinking. The glow reflected off her skin. "Then we break it." "You don't know what that means." "I know what it's like to be hunted," she said softly. "And I'm tired of pretending I can't fight back." Something flickered in his eyes. "Respect, maybe. Or something deeper. You'd risk that for me." "I already did." Lucian exhaled, a sound that wasn't quite a laugh but close. "You don't understand. That mark isn't just pain, it's a bond. If it breaks wrong, it takes me with it." "Then it won't break wrong," she said. He looked at her for a long time, then nodded once. "You have no idea what kind of trouble you just invited, Elowen Hale." "Guess I'll find out," she said, trying to sound braver than she felt. Outside, the storm began to fade. The forest settled into uneasy quiet. But neither of them slept. They sat by the fire, not speaking, both listening to the faint hum of the sigil burning through the night. Sometime before dawn, Lucian said, "They'll come again. Not as hunters this time. They'll come with words, demands." "Why?" "Because they'll know what you are now," he said. "And they'll know you can break the pact that binds them." She turned toward him slowly. "And if I can?" "Then you're the most dangerous thing in this war," he said. "To them. And to me." Their eyes met across the dying fire. The air seemed to hold its breath. "I'll protect you," Lucian said finally. Elowen shook her head. "You can't protect me from what's coming." He leaned forward, voice low. "Maybe not, but I can stand beside you while it happens." The last of the firelight flickered across his face. Pale skin, dark eyes, the faint red glow beneath. For the first time since she'd met him, Elowen didn't see a monster. She saw a man trying to stay alive in a world that had already decided his death. "Rest," she whispered, and for once he obeyed. Dawn came with a sky the color of bruised peaches and ash. The storm was gone, but everything it had shaken loose still hung in the air. Lucian moved like a man who had slept with one eye open his entire life. He gathered the ruined cloak, tied it off at the shoulder, and covered the sigil as best he could. When Elowen reached for a plain shirt from her trunk, he didn't argue. He took it, pulled it on and said, "Thank you," like it cost him a slice of pride to let anyone help. They didn't talk much on the walk out of the forest. The trees dripped and steamed, and the ground sucked at their boots. She led the way because her wards would unspool for her and close behind them. He followed because something in him trusted that if he fell, she would turn and lift him. The border keep rose out of the fog like the skeleton of a sleeping beast. Black stone, broken crenellations, banners clawed to ribbons by wind. Guards on the walls spotted them and shouted down. Crossbows shifted, then lowered at the sight of their king. "Elowen stays close," Lucian told the captain as they passed under the gate arch. "Anyone who touches her answers to me." The captain swallowed. "Yes, my lord." Inside the courtyard, eyes tracked them like sparrows track a hawk. Servants froze mid-step. Veterans straightened. Courtiers and hangers-on, dusted in weary finery, pulled too fast from trunks, whispered behind gloved hands. Elowen's skin crawled with it and steadied anyway. She had lived under worse stares for years. This time she had someone to walk beside. They didn't get 3 more steps before the herald rushed across the stones with a face like a pale flag. "My lord." "I know," Lucian said. "They're here." The great hall smelled of smoke, steel and old oaths. A long table sat like a scar down the center. Torches guttered in iron rings. At the far end, the high seat waited. Sharp-backed, cold. Lucian didn't take it. He stood straight at the table's head, and kept Elowen at his right hand, fingers almost brushing hers but not quite. The doors boomed open. Lycans entered first. Leather and rain and animal heat pushing in with them. Not fully shifted, but not fully human either. Their eyes lit with a yellow-brown that caught fire in torchlight. At their center walked a man with hair like iron filings and a grin that mistook cruelty for charm. "Beta Kalen," Lucian said without warmth. "King," Kalen answered, rolling the word in his mouth like a challenge. Behind him strode 3 more, 2 warriors, and a woman in a dark coat with moon iron clasps. She moved like she carried secrets for a living. And then came a second column, a half-beat later, like a performative afterthought. Robes. Rings. Coven. Red. Their leader was tall, handsome in that polished stone way, and colder than the flagstones underfoot. He bowed a fraction, nothing more. Magister Seraphiel, Lucian said. His jaw ticked once. Magister Seraphiel, Lucian said. His jaw ticked once. My king, Seraphiel answered smoothly. How grateful I am to find you safely returned to your seat. Elowen felt the lie from across the hall. Kaelin's grin widened when he noticed her. His nostrils flared like a wolf catching a familiar scent. There she is, he said softly. The whisper in the trees. Your Highness has developed a taste for rare things. Lucian didn't look at him. He looked at Elowen, just once, and then out across the room. State your purpose. Simple enough, Seraphiel said, hands folding. We come under a banner of truce, to resolve a dispute without needless bloodshed. There's a first time for everything, Lucian said. A ripple of stifled laughter darted around the edges of the room and died, when Seraphiel's gaze cut that way. The matter before us, the Magister went on, is a breach of ancient accords. The wolves of Iron Howl have bound themselves to the Moon Pact, a right recognized by the Coven since the Elder Knights. The pact can be broken only by one kind of power. His eyes slid to Elowen. A seer's light. Kaelin lifted his chin toward her. Hand her over. We escort her to the stones. She breaks the pact where it was forged. Both sides go home. And you keep the bind on my heart? Lucian asked, voice mild enough to frost glass. Kaelin smiled. We keep what keeps balance. Balance, Lucian repeated, as if tasting a spoiled fruit. Seraphiel stepped forward a measured pace. No one speaks of harming the girl. She is unique. We will ensure she is treated with care. Elowen felt her hands go cold. The way he said care was the way someone says, collar. Her name is Elowen Hale, Lucian said. And she isn't going anywhere with you. Seraphiel's eyes cooled further. Your Majesty, the Coven desires harmony. If the pact unravels without right, there will be chaos. Blood feuds. The Council prefers order, Kaelin shrugged wider. And we prefer our kill to run in circles first. Everyone wants something. The hall's tension pulled tight enough to sing. Lucian let the silence breathe, then set his palm flat on the table. You branded me, he said to Seraphiel. You sold my blood to wolves. Then you brought them to my door under a painted word like truce. We did nothing of the sort, Seraphiel said without blinking. You were marked with a bond of protection to keep you from rash conflict. The wolves were empowered to ensure compliance with the pact you yourself swore. Elowen stared. You're lying, she said before she could stop herself. Conversation cracked like ice. Every head turned. Seraphiel's gaze landed on her and slid, as if she were a smudge on clean glass. The mortal speaks out of turn. She speaks when I allow it, Lucian said without raising his voice. The room still flinched. Elowen kept her chin high. He didn't swear to be hunted. He didn't choose to bleed on command. You bound him to be caught and called it safety. Seraphiel's mouth curved. Ah. You think in lines and heartbeats. We think in centuries. The throne must be preserved. Kaelin tapped 2 fingers, bored. Piece de théâtre aside. We came to collect. The seer. To the stones. Now. No. Lucian said. Kaelin's smile sharpened. Then we take her. Swords hissed out around the room. Guards on both sides took a half step forward and froze when Lucian lifted one finger. This is a court, not a pit, he said. You come under my roof. You speak under my law. You want a seer from my hall. You argue your claim in front of my people. Not with steel, with terms. Seraphiel's lashes lowered. Terms, then. He didn't sit. He didn't need to. He stood there, letting the law find its shape around him, and Elowen realized with a small shock that for all his frost, this man had built 1,000 traps with nothing but tone and time. The ancient records, Seraphiel went on, name 3 acceptable uses for a seer: warding, witness, and right. This is a right. The council claims her for that lawful purpose. She is not your anything, Lucian said. The rightful use of seer power is the seer's choice. Seers belong to no one, Seraphiel asked lightly. Not even a king? Lucian's eyes didn't leave him. Especially not a king. A quiet moved through the room that felt like a page turning. Elowen heard it crack through the ranks. Surprise, respect, anger, fear. She didn't breathe. Seraphiel's mouth tilted. Your Majesty grows sentimental. Lucian's stare didn't soften. My Majesty grows bored of men who forget that mercy is a form of strength. Kaelan huffed. We're done with poetry. The sun climbs. The moon waits. Give us the girl. Elowen lifted her hand before Lucian could answer. He glanced at her. She glanced back. Trust me. She took one step forward, then two, until she could see the cut of Kaelan's grin and the way his canines caught light. She kept her voice level. If I break your pact, she said, what happens to the bond on his heart? Kaelan's eyes flicked to the place under Lucian's shirt where the burn glowed faintly. That bond is separate. So he stays branded. Balance stays balanced, he said, already bored again. And if I won't break the pact for you? Elowen asked. Kaelan's posture brightened. Then we take your hands and make your light sit still. Lucian moved. He didn't cross the room. He didn't have to. The temperature changed like a door opened into winter. The beater's smile thinned. Try, Lucian said, calm and fatal. See who is handless when we're done. Seraphiel lifted 2 fingers, calling back attention like a hound. We wander. The law is clear. The throne must not be weakened. The pact stands unless broken in right. The girl is necessary to prevent open war. She must be surrendered. Say her name, Lucian said. Seraphiel blinked, genuinely thrown. What? Say her name, Lucian repeated, soft as a falling blade. If you mean to claim a person, start by remembering she is one. Seraphiel's jaw flexed. Elowen. Last name, Lucian said. The Magister's silence said enough. Lucian didn't smile. He didn't spare the room. He just spoke clearly. Her name is Elowen Hale. She is under my protection. By my word, my crown, and the blood you tried to chain. Kaelan rolled his shoulders. Majesty, I get it. You like your new spark. But law is law. Give. Or else, Lucian asked. Or else we stop pretending this is talk. The room felt like a match ready to light. Elowen could taste iron on her tongue. She had one more card and knew it would cost. She played it anyway. I'll submit to witness, she said. Lucian's head snapped toward her. No. She kept her eyes on Seraphiel. You said the accepted uses. Warding, witness, right. You claim me for right. I counter with witness. We let the hall see what you did. What we did? Seraphiel said mildly. Show us the brand, she said to Lucian. He didn't move. Elowen, he said, low. She stepped closer and lifted her hand. Please. Something in his face softened and broke. He nodded once. Fingers found buttons, cloth peeled back. The hall inhaled. The moon iron sigil looked worse in light. It wasn't just a brand. It was a net strung across the heart with barbs directed inward. Every exhale made the metal glow. Every inhale made it bite. Witness, Elowen said, and the word wasn't a formality. Power answered. Her palms warmed. Seraphiel's pupils pinched. Don't. Elowen didn't move closer. She didn't need to. She let the light rise just enough to map the mark in the air. Lines, angles, the old script braided through it. Gasps rippled as symbols appeared like frost on glass for all to see. Lucian held still, jaw crushed tight. What does it say? The captain asked, voice rough. Elowen's throat worked. She read, not with her eyes, but with the part of her that had always known too much. It says, take the king's heart, and tie it to the wolf moon. It says, hunt him until he kneels. It says, if he resists. Her breath hitched. It feeds on him. A murmur bled into a growl. The veterans' faces went hard. Even among the coven ranks, sick shock flashed, and darted down again under discipline. Seraphiel's voice was silk over knives. The girl interprets sigils without context. A brand looks like a blade to one who expects to be cut. It's a blade, Elowen said. You forged it. He smiled small. Can you prove that? Elowen stared at the pattern again. Something in it tugged. Familiar not because she'd seen it, but because it had once tried to grab her. Her warding had repelled the same structure the night before. It matched too cleanly. You used my light to draft it, she whispered, shocked. Not mine, someone like me, a seer. The torches seemed to swap sides of the world. Even the wolves shifted, uneasy. Seraphiel's gaze flickered. Seers have always served the crown. Not like that, Lucian said. Not as tools for a leash. A leash is still a line. Seraphiel's returned, voice tired. Lines keep kings from strangling their people. But enough. You parade wounds to turn a claim into a gallows. It does not change the law. Hand over the girl for right. Lucian's answer came slow and absolute. No. Kaelin's smile died. Then we end it here. The room surged, two tides colliding. Elowen threw up both hands on instinct. Light flared. Shield wide and clear as glass but stronger than steel. Swords slammed it. Claws screeched down it. Sparks leapt and died. Stop! She shouted. Stop! All of you. It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. The light carried the words for her. For a breath, they froze. Elowen's voice shook only once. You want a right? Fine. You have one. I choose it. But not at your stones. Here, under his roof, under his law, with every eye watching. Seraphiel studied her like a chessboard had started speaking. What right? The severing, Elowen said, and her bones went cold to say it. You say balance. I say honesty. I cut the pact from the wolves, and the brand from the king at the same time. And if either side cheats, if either side lunges while the light is up, the light answers. Answers how? Kaelin asked, suddenly less sure. Badly, she said. Lucian's voice came low. Elowen, you don't have to. I know, she said softly without looking. I want to. Seraphiel clasped his hands behind his back, to hide the small tremor that betrayed him. If the seer fails, the backlash kills the king. Then don't push me to fail, she said. The room did the math. Wolves traded looks, some hungry, some wary. Coven elders ran lines of outcomes behind their eyes. Soldiers watched their king instead of their fear. Lucian turned to her and forgot the room existed. Why this? Because I won't let them pretend I'm a thing to fetch, she said, too honest. Because I'm tired of hiding and shaking and hoping someone else does the brave thing first. She swallowed. Because they built a rope with your blood, and called it wise. His jaw worked like he fought words he had never learned to say. I won't let you burn for me. I won't let you bleed for them, she answered. I can order you to stand down. You can, she said. You won't. Silence hit like a bell. He stared at her a second longer, then laughed once, soft and broken. No, he said, I won't. Seraphiel spread his hands. Very stirring. But the severing requires a circle, instruments, witnesses of standing rank, a time set under agreed sky. Then agree, Lucian said. Tonight, Elowen added. Moonrise. Kaelin scrubbed a hand over his jaw, eyes bright. We get our pack sigil freed. You get your king unhooked. And if the seer's heart stops, we go back to the old ways. Blood for blood. Lucian's gaze swung to him. Touch her, and you learn new ways instead. Seraphiel's voice thinned. We accept the right with conditions. Lucian raised one brow. Name them. The girl will be kept safe in a neutral chamber until moonrise, Seraphiel said. Guarded by both sides, no one talks to her alone. No one touches her except to administer water and bread. Elowen almost laughed at water and bread, the ancient language of mercy. Fine, she said. Second, Seraphiel went on. The Circle Master will be appointed by the Council to ensure the rite follows form. No, Lucian said. Elowen calls the Circle Master. Seraphiel's smile returned. She knows no masters. She knows the captain of my guard, Lucian said. He served in the north when the sun forgot to rise for a week. He can draw a circle sober. The captain coughed. My lord, you'll do, Lucian said. The captain shut up. Kalen cracked his knuckles. Third, the wolf who wears our pact stands at the edge. I want to feel you cut me. His grin snapped back on, mean and bright. See whether you can. Name, Elowen said. Kalen, he said, pleased. You'll remember it. She nodded. I will. Seraphiel's eyes narrowed at the henchman's eagerness, and then smoothed. Last condition. If the rite fails and harms the king, there will be no reprisal against the coven. Lucian's laugh had teeth. Denied. Then there is no rite, Seraphiel replied, already turning away. Elowen stepped in, light slipping through her voice. Reprisal belongs to the injured, not to law. If he falls, no one will be left who wants to avenge him more than I do. Do you plan to outpace me to the killing? That pinned the room again. Even Kalen let out a low, delighted sound. Seraphiel's composure cracked just at the corner of one eye. Very well, he said. We accept. Lucian's knuckles rapped the table once, a king's gavel. So witnessed. The deal landed like a weight. The hall breathed again, ragged and not relieved. Guards moved. 2 from the coven, 2 from Lucian's own, and 2 wolves peeled off to flank Elowen. She stiffened. Lucian stepped in their path. One more condition, he said. Seraphiel sighed. This is not a marketplace. It's not a kennel either, Lucian said. He held out his hand to Elowen, palm up. She walks with me. The guards made space because the room had already chosen who it feared. Elowen placed her fingers in Lucian's, because she wanted to, and because it would keep her from shaking. They walked the corridor together, stone sweated. Slits of windows showed a sky clearing its throat. At a door carved with circles and lines, the captain paused. Neutral chamber, he said. 2 watchers inside, 4 outside. No knives, no fire. We don't need either, Elowen said. The wolves took opposite corners of the room. The coven men took chairs by the door. The captain stood at the wall, hands behind his back, and pretended he didn't wish he were anywhere else. Lucian turned to her. He didn't touch her this time. He looked ruined with wanting to and stubborn with refusing. I'll be outside, he said. I know. If anything. Lucian, she said, and it quieted him. Go be king. I'll be here when the moon rises. He nodded. He didn't move. She half smiled. That's your exit line. He huffed one breath, almost a laugh, and stepped back. Elowen. Yes? He chose truth over safety. I'm afraid. It came out, like a secret chewed to blood. It undid her gently. Me too, she said. We'll be brave anyway. He left before the guards could see his face. Time stretched thin. The room settled into a rhythm. Boots on stone, a throat cleared, distant orders called and answered. Elowen sat on a simple bench and pressed her palms together until the bones in her fingers stopped buzzing. The coven watcher on the left cleared his throat. You could run, he said conversationally. Right now, there's a sally door halfway down the outer stairs. The wolf in the corner snorted. We'd catch her before she hit the courtyard. You'd try, the guard said. Elowen kept her eyes on her hands. Why are you helping? The guard shrugged. I'm not. I'm thinking out loud. You're scared too, she said. He didn't answer. The door opened once. Bread and water. She took both. The bread steadied her. The water cooled the place in her chest where light sat like a live coal. Dusk came with a single bell. The captain stepped forward. It's time. Outside, the courtyard had been cleared and swept. A circle had been drawn with chalk, salt, iron dust. 4 braziers stood ready but unlit. The moon climbed pale and clean. Faces ringed the space. Wolves, coven, soldiers, servants, people who would say later they had been there even if they hadn't. Lucian waited at the far edge. His shirt was open where the sigil needed to be seen. He looked like a man who had decided a long time ago how he would die, and was surprised to be negotiating the date. Elowen stepped into the circle. The first footfall felt like stepping into cold water. The second felt like stepping into her name. "Who stands as circle master?" the captain called. "I do," the captain said, and a ripple of dark humor passed through the crowd. He stepped to his mark, face pale and steady. "Witnesses of rank." "Seraphiel Dragor, Magister." Seraphiel said. Kaelan Iron Howl, "Better." Kaelan said, "Too loud." "Captain Jory Thane, King's Guard." The captain added for himself then, "King Lucian Voss, as subject of release." Lucian's voice carried without shouting. "Lucian, Seer." Elowen's mouth was dry. "Elowen hail. I choose the severing." The circle closed with a soft chime none of them actually heard. Power threads lay down across stone like frost. The moon cleared a veiled cloud. The torches didn't matter anymore. The world lit itself. Elowen lifted her hands. Light poured to her palms and sat there, a sleeping blade waiting to be named. She looked up, found Lucian across the chalk and locked eyes. "Ready?" she asked. He didn't lie to her. "No." "Good," she said. "Me neither." She drew breath. The circle answered. The pact line between wolf and moon hummed through the air like a taut string. The brand on a king's heart sang to it like a twin. She felt both. She reached with the gentlest edge she could make. "Careful," the captain whispered to no one, to everyone. Elowen's light slid through the first knot and found the second. The brand flared, fighting. Lucian hissed. Wolves bristled. Coven eyes gleamed like coins at the bottom of a dark well. And then, somewhere beyond the walls, a horn blew. 1, 2, 3 times. Wrong note, wrong time. Kaelan's head snapped up. "What is that?" The captain swore. "Siege signal." The circle quivered under Elowen's feet. She didn't lower her hands. Seraphiel's mouth curved at the edges. "How unfortunate." Lucian's voice went blade steady. "Hold your lines. No one moves. No one touches the circle." The horn screamed again, closer. Elowen's light shook like a candle in a wind that hadn't reached her yet. She didn't look away from Lucian. "We finish this," she said. The moon cleared the last cloud. The chalk brightened. The brand blazed red enough to hurt. And somewhere beyond the gate, everything that had been promised in threats began to arrive. The third horn sounded before the last echo of the second had died. Then came the answer. The low, rolling thunder of thousands of paws and the cold, high ring of steel. The siege had begun. Inside the courtyard, time split clean down the middle. Half of it belonged to the circle, where Elowen's light trembled between worlds. The other half belonged to the chaos pounding at the keep's gate. Lucian turned his head slightly toward the captain. "Hold the walls," he said, quiet but final. "Yes, my king." The captain ran, barking orders that became thunder against the stone corridors. Arrows clattered into place. Shields lifted. Somewhere above them, the first crash hit the gate like a hammer against bone. Elowen didn't flinch. She was still in the circle, both palms raised, light tracing the line between Lucian's heart and the moon. The severing was almost there. One more breath, one more cut. But she could feel something fighting back. Not the wolves. Not the pact itself. Seraphiel. He stood just outside the chalk line, lips moving in a whisper so soft no one else could hear. But she could. The words slipped like oil into her mind. "Let it fail, little light. Let him die, and you live free." Elowen gritted her teeth. "You don't get to tell me what freedom is." Lucian's eyes flicked toward her. "What?" "Nothing," she said. "Hold still." The mark on his chest flared, the light inside it twisting like a living thing. He choked out a sound, half growl, half gasp, and sank to one knee. "Elowen," he rasped. "Stop." "No," she said. "Not while you still bleed for them." She reached deeper, past the pain, past the heat. Her light met the core of the sigil, and for a moment she saw everything. Lucian chained beneath the coven's hall, the wolves tearing through villages on his scent. Seraphiel's hand, pressing the brand into his skin. She didn't see the world how it was. She saw it how it had been written. And she rewrote it. The circle flared white. The air screamed. Every wolf outside the walls howled once, as if struck by the same invisible blow. Then silence. Lucian collapsed. The brand on his chest was gone, leaving only a scar. "Elowen," he said, voice rough. "It's done." "Then why do you look like that?" Because the light hadn't left. It burned inside her, wild and directionless, with nowhere else to go. The severing hadn't just cut him loose, it had tethered the broken magic to her. Behind them, Seraphiel hissed. "You fool! You've taken it into yourself!" Elowen turned, and for the first time since the storm, she was the one who looked like something to fear. Her eyes glowed pale gold, hair rising with static. The air around her bent. "You made the rope," she said. "Now feel it snap." She lifted her hand, and Seraphiel's body jerked backward, as if pulled by a chain. The mark that had once bound Lucian now coiled around the Magister's own chest. "Stop," Lucian said quietly. She froze. The light trembled. "He deserves." "I know," Lucian said, "but don't give him what he gave me. Don't let them make you cruel." Her breath hitched. Slowly, painfully, she lowered her hand. The light dimmed. Seraphiel fell to his knees, clutching at his chest, gasping. Kalen, who had watched it all like a wolf watching a forest fire, spat on the stones. "The pact's broken," he said. "We've no more business here." But he didn't move. None of them did. The wolves outside were howling again, not in rage, but confusion. The bond that had once guided them was gone. Lucian rose, still unsteady but whole. "Call them off," he said to Kalen. "End this before they tear each other apart." Kalen hesitated, then let out a single, piercing howl. The answering cries came from all sides, fading into distance, like a tide pulling back from shore. Elowen swayed. The courtyard tilted. Lucian caught her before she hit the ground. Easy. The glow under her skin began to fade, but it took something with it. Her strength, her breath, her balance. She leaned into him, shaking. "I can't." "Don't," he said. "Don't say can't. You just broke the oldest spell in 2 kingdoms. She gave a weak laugh that turned into a sob. "You sound proud." "I am." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "And terrified." The guards and courtiers were still frozen, watching a scene they couldn't name. No one knew if they were supposed to kneel or run. Lucian lifted his head and spoke for them all. "The war is over," he said. "The pact is broken. Any who raise a weapon now do so against peace itself." The words spread like fire through dry grass. Even Seraphiel, pale and shaking, didn't argue. When it was done. When the crowd began to disperse, whispering, unsure. Lucian turned back to her. "You saved me," he said. She shook her head. "No. I just gave you back what they stole." He studied her face, the way her eyes flickered with the last traces of light. "And what did it steal from you?" "Nothing I wasn't ready to give," she said softly. He touched her cheek, and for a long time neither of them spoke. The quiet that followed wasn't peace exactly. It was what comes after a storm, when the world still smells like lightning but you can finally breathe. "Come with me," he said. "To the capital. To rebuild what's left." Elowen hesitated. "I've spent my life running from people who want to use what I am. What happens when the rest of your court realizes what I can do?" "Then they'll learn," Lucian said, "that a throne built on fear isn't a throne worth keeping. And if they can't learn, I'll burn the hall down and start again." She smiled at that, a small, cracked, beautiful thing. "Do I get a choice?" "You always did," he said. "You were just the first one who didn't need my permission to take it." The moonlight hit them both, turning the courtyard to silver. The wind carried the scent of pine again. Cleaner now, freer. Elowen looked at his scar, then at the place where her palms still faintly glowed. "The mark's gone," she said, "but I still feel it." "So do I." "What if it comes back?" Lucian leaned closer, his voice almost a whisper. "Then we break it again. Together." She smiled. "Together." He kissed her. Not the kiss of a king claiming victory, but of a man who'd found his way home. Around them, the keep slowly came alive again, guards shouting, braziers flaring, the distant sound of wolves retreating into the forest. But none of it touched them. For the first time in years, Lucian's heart was quiet. For the first time in her life, Elowen wasn't alone. When they finally parted, she rested her forehead against his. "You're still bleeding," she murmured. He smiled faintly. "I know, but it's the kind that heals." Later, when the fires were out and the night had gone still, Elowen stood at the edge of the battlements, looking at the forest she used to call home. Lucian joined her, silent until she spoke. "Do you ever wonder if peace can last?" He looked at her hand in his. "No. I wonder if we'll keep choosing it." She nodded. "Then maybe that's enough." Below them, the wolves moved through the trees, no longer hunting, no longer bound. The moonlight caught their fur, silvering them like ghosts fading into the distance. Elowen turned to him. "What happens now?" Lucian's mouth curved. "Now, we build something worth bleeding for." And when the wind rose again, it didn't smell like iron or fear. It smelled like rain on stone and pine, like the beginning of something new. What would you choose? To hide where no one can hurt you again, or to step into the light knowing it might burn? Tell me in the comments, because every love story, no matter how dark, begins with a choice.